Film versus digital. Which is best? Two will enter, one will win. Kinda. Hi, my name's Caleb, and I'm a boudoir photographer based in Bend, Oregon. And I've recently fallen in love with shooting on film. There's a tangibility to it, a physicality, a analog warmth. Also feels super cool just to shoot with it, you know? I mean, if you're watching this, you probably do know. But before we dive in, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Anyway, this is a very unscientific test that I did recently where I compared my Fujifilm X-T3 against my Canon AE1 program with a couple of different films. In fact, we're going to look at three different comparisons today. First is a roll of Ilford HP5+, second is an expired roll of Kodak Ultramax 400, and third is a roll of CineStill 800T. Now on my X-T3 I loaded up Fuji X Weekly's recipes for each of these three different films. And all the photos that you see are going to be straight out of camera JPEGs with a little bit of editing here and there. Now if you haven't heard of Fuji X Weekly, it's a really cool project by photographer Richie Roche that gives you all the settings to dial your Fuji camera in to match these different film stocks. It's a lot of fun and it's kind of one of the things that drew me to Fuji cameras in the first place. So I thought it'd be a fun challenge to kind of compare the Fuji X Weekly recipes with the film stocks that they emulate and see which ones I like better. So let's start with a couple of the HP5 images.
Okay, here on the left we have the actual film, the Ilford HP5+, and then on the right we have my Fujifilm X-T3 with that HP5 emulation recipe. One thing that definitely is different is the skies. With the Fujifilm there's a lot more definition caught in the actual clouds, whereas with the Ilford it's just kind of white, which I think is actually kind of a nice look. There is some definition in there, but I also like kind of the transitional periods of the film. It kind of just looks a little smoother. Of course, that's probably a lot to do with the lighting because I didn't match the lighting exactly, but overall, I kind of like both of them. I like them both for different reasons. Here's another example, and again with that Fujifilm you get a little bit more detail in the skies, although there's still detail in the skies of the Ilford. But again, I think with the Ilford there's a little bit smoother of transitions. Again, I think that might just be the lighting. But yeah, definitely more detail and more dynamic range with the Fujifilm.
Now let's look at the Ultramax 400 photos.
Okay, here we have the Kodak Ultramax on the left. It's from the film, which is expired by a little bit. And then on the right is the Fujifilm, and they definitely have different colors of blue. Now I don't know if that's just like the scan, and then the white balance that's applied to the scan, or the white balance that's put into the emulation. But they definitely have a bit different of toning, and I almost for this like the expired Ultramax better than I like the emulation one. Let's look at another one. Again, there's definitely a different color profile here, and it's interesting with this, the Kodak actually gets more of the sky detail. I don't know if it's just because of how I exposed it, but I do like the flare of the X-T3 a lot better. That color profile though is a lot different, and I'm definitely enjoying the Kodak's colors more than the Fujifilm's. Again, I could of course change all of these in editing, but that's kind of not what I was going for,
Okay, now let's look at the 800T photos.
Okay, as a huge fan of like lens flares and stuff and kind of light leaks, I love the 800T here. I love the halations that are around the light sources where, you look at the Fuji and it's, it doesn't have like that red glow around it, obviously, because, it wouldn't, because it's not film. And, you could do that in post-production, but that kind of, again, defeats the purpose. But for this, I mean, the colors are both pretty similar. So I think they did a good job of emulating that, but goodness, the atmosphere and the mood of the 800T is pretty hard to beat. Okay, again here, like the coloring is just a little bit off. It could be just the scan on the CineStill. It's given a little bit warmer, a little bit more green. Fujifilm, is definitely staying true to that blue. I do like how the light fall off on the CineStill is on her arm. It's a little blown out on the Fujifilm, interestingly enough. Now, again, of course, that is something that with the Fujifilm I actually could correct, whereas if it was, all the way blown out on the CineStill, probably not as easy to correct. But I think this one, CineStill wins. Okay, let's look at one more here, and again, I think here, the CineStill, the actual film, does a nicer job on her skin tones, and again, I'm just such a sucker for that glow halation around the bright points. I do really like the one on the right, and again, if I had shot it in RAW, I could do all the editing to my heart's content, but just like right out of camera, I think I like the CineStill a bit better. You know, with editing, I think obviously I could get the Fujifilm to where I really, really loved it. But I think for just, you know, the straight out of camera look, straight out of scanner look, I'm digging the CineStill here. So it almost looks like CineStill is beating its Fujifilm emulation here.
So this is going to sound a little unsatisfactory, but I kind of like all of them. Each of them have their own different charm and their different looks. But if I had to choose, I would say just barely Digital wins Black and White, Digital wins Ultramax, and Film wins 800T. But what do you think? Do you think that I should try this again, but with like a little bit better methodology? Anyway, thanks for watching, and be sure to follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads. And I would be so honored to have you join our community over on Patreon. I actually just posted some of my favorite pictures of 2023 over there. And they're posted the way that they're supposed to be seen. No cropping, no censorship, no trying to skirt around the algorithms. And we actually have some pretty fun discussions over there. Thanks again, we'll see you next time. I actually just pissed.